The universe wants to communicate with you, and it communicates every single day. But most people just aren't tuned in, or they don't know how the universe communicates, so they miss it. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips for receiving communication from the universe. Now, I receive communication from the universe every day. This is something I've been practicing a lot and really getting in tune with myself, in tune with the universe, getting really familiar with my intuition, and it's always guiding me. We have this inner guidance system, but again, most people aren't tuned into it. So these 5 tips will help you to learn how to get tuned in and receive this communication. The first tip is to acknowledge spirit, the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it. Because when you think about it, right? Let's say you're at a party, you go to your friend John's party, and John's like, oh, this is my friend Dave. And he sort of introduces you to Dave. And Dave doesn't really acknowledge you and then just walks away. Does that make you feel like you want to communicate to someone that doesn't really acknowledge you? Not really. So if you're not acknowledging the universe, it's not really going to try to communicate with you. So the way to acknowledge it is simply by talking to it. I talk to the universe every day, and it might seem crazy, but it's only crazy to the people that aren't awake and aware and don't understand this sort of thing. So you can just simply talk to it. Ask questions, ask for guidance. You can just say, like if you've got a problem going on in your life, you can just talk to the universe about it and ask for guidance and say, I am open and ready to receive any guidance you have. Putting that communication out there with the universe like that is when the universe will respond, and it may not respond straight away. It may be later that day. You will get some sort of communication and you'll notice it, and then you will realize, oh, that's the answer to my question that I asked earlier. So another way of communication is like how people pray, which is more religious. I'm not a religious person, but it's the same idea. So just talk to it, ask for guidance, and you will get some type of response. The second tip is to become aware of how the universe communicates. Because if you don't know how the universe communicates, which it communicates in so many different ways, but if you don't understand how it communicates, you're going to miss it. So I'll give you some examples of how it communicates. One example is numbers. So the universe is built on numbers, and we have what's called the angel numbers. So that's like 1111, 111, 222, 333, and so on. And if you start seeing regular numbers coming up in your reality, you keep seeing the same type of numbers, there's a message there. That's communication from the universe. So ever since I started this YouTube channel last year, I have been receiving a lot of communication and guidance from the universe, and numbers is something that's been coming up a lot. So I've been seeing a lot of 1111, 111, 222, 333, 444, and 555. But one number in particular that's been really in my face was 44. And I still see it all the time. It's getting to the point where I feel like I'm haunted by this number. Every time I look at the clock, it's like 8:44, 10:44, and I look at my phone, it's like 44%. Like this number 44 is everywhere. I looked into what it meant, and it's very relevant to me building an online business. So I felt like this is communication from the universe that is basically telling me I'm on the right path and giving me a wee bit of guidance in my early stages of my journey with this business. Another form of communication can be through people. It can use people as vehicles to deliver a message. I'll give you one example of mine. Although it wasn't people, it was a bee. It was a really funny situation. So long story short, I went to the beach one day, and I hadn't been swimming in the ocean for a long time, and I was too scared to go out too deep and get in under the water and stuff, because I was like, you know, I'm not a good swimmer. I don't know what's lurking in there. I had a friend trying to encourage me, and I literally said, no, I'm too scared. I'm too scared. And that was that, right? I went back to the same beach the next day, and this was on my birthday. And this was such an amazing and magical moment to have on my birthday. So I literally just went to the beach to frolic in the waves like a little kid, right? And I ended up feeling this bee bump into me. I didn't know it was a bee at first. I just felt something bump me. I turned around and I was like, oh, there's a bee. So I went to move away from it, like just walk away. And then I realized, oh, it's following me. And then I thought it was going to want to attack me because I thought I might have bumped it and it thought that I was trying to attack it. So I thought it was following me to sting me. And so I'm running in the ocean and I'm freaking out because it's following me. And then I realized, man, I've got no choice. I've got to dive in under the water. So I did. I dived into the ocean. I lost my sunglasses. Rest in peace to those sunglasses. And I went swimming for a bit, and then I popped up and I was like, where's the bee? And I was like, oh, the bee's gone. And then I got out of the water and I ran back to the shore and I was just laughing my head off. I was laughing my head off because I knew that was communication from the universe. Because the way the universe works is, yes, it can use people as vehicles to deliver a message, but it can also use something like a little bee. And that little bee was what got me into the ocean. It's almost like the universe was saying, like, don't be so scared, like, get in there. And so I did, and then now it's like, oh, I'm not really scared of the ocean. So that's another way that the universe can communicate. Another example is things like synchronicity. So synchronicity is the same thing as coincidences. They say that there is no such thing as a coincidence. It's called synchronicities. So one of my examples was when I first started up my YouTube channel. It was really odd. So I was watching, well, I don't really watch The Simpsons or Family Guy. They just came on the TV. Sometimes I have the TV on as just like background sound. And The Simpsons was on right before Family Guy. And I thought, this is weird because both episodes, I think it was Bart in The Simpsons and Peter in Family Guy, but in both episodes, they both had a falcon on their arm. Like they wore the glove with the falcon sitting on it. And I thought, that's so strange that both The Simpsons and then Family Guy followed straight after, and it was both, you know, about having this falcon. And I thought, there's no such thing as a coincidence. I thought there's some synchronicity going on here. So I looked up what falcon symbolism was. And again, it was very relevant information to me building this online business. So I felt like it's more communication from the universe, giving me that message that I'm on the right path right now and to keep doing this. So this sort of communication can come in so many different ways. It's just being aware of how it communicates. When you start becoming aware, then you'll start noticing it, like, oh, that's communication. So another form can be songs. You might be, let's say, for example, you might have had someone close to you that died. This has happened to me. And there may have been a certain, you know, song played at their funeral. And then you might just randomly get in your car and turn your car on and boom, that song's playing. Is it a coincidence or is it a message from your loved one? I believe it's a message. That's the way it felt for me when I heard the song that was played at my cousin's funeral. I walked into the gas station and it just happened to be playing. And it just made me feel like he was close by. So songs can be signs of communication and messages. You can actually also, another form of communication is signs. It could be literally a sign in your face. So keep your eyes open for any types of signs. Another form of communication can be through your dreams. Another form of communication can be a random thought. So for example, have you ever noticed where you're just like, out of nowhere, you're like, oh, I just got an idea. Where do you think that idea just came from? It came from spirit. So your brain is a receiver. You're just receiving thoughts and information. You are not your thoughts. You are the conscious being that's observing the thoughts. So when you get an idea out of nowhere, oh, that's communication from spirit, from the universe. And when It can be the same with intuitive messages. They can just come in out of nowhere like, oh, and you have this realization. That's communication. And another form of communication is like a deep feeling or knowing. So it could be like you just have this deep feeling or knowing that this is right. This is what I should be doing now. Or it might be like you meet someone and you're just like, something's off about this person. That's your intuition and gut instincts speaking to you, which is also spirit that's speaking to you. So those are some examples of how those are some examples of how the universe communicates. So now you become more aware of these things. You can start becoming more mindful of them, and you'll start noticing them in your day-to-day life. The third tip is meditate. When we meditate, we disconnect from the outer world and we start putting the focus on the inner world. Now, when we put the focus on our inner world and we just sit in that stillness and that silence, that is when we start connecting to our higher self, to God, to the higher powers, to your spirit guides, to your intuition. And the more you're doing that, the more you meditate and go within, which I recommend doing it every day. I meditate about 3 times a day, and it's really good for us to disconnect from the outer world and go into our inner world, because we have this inner knowing, we have this inner being and this inner knowing and this inner guidance. But if you're constantly being distracted by the outer world, like most people are, they're distracted by drugs, alcohol, sex, people, video games, scrolling on their phone. Everyone's distracting in the outer world. You're not going to receive that intuitive guidance and communication if you're always being distracted in the outer world. You have to be able to be in that stillness and that silence to be able to hear those, that intuitive guidance coming through. So that's why I recommend meditation, because meditation gets you to focus on your inner world. It gets you to become more present to the moment. And when you become present, that is when the intuitive guidance can come on through. So get into the habit of meditating every day, because it's a practice. The more you do something, the better you will get. It's like going into the gym, right? You've got to be consistent to get results in the gym. You can't go to the gym once and then expect to have all these muscles. It's the same idea of meditation. You can't just do it once and then to expect to have all this connection to the spirit side and have all this intuitive guidance and information coming through. You've got to do it daily, but you don't have to do it for a long amount of time, right? It can be just like 5 minutes a day here and there. And, you could do it on your lunch break. And there are so many great health benefits as well. Like, this is one of the main great benefits and purposes of meditation, but there are so many other great benefits for doing this practice that it's just, you're going to get so much out of it. That's why it's worth doing. So you need to be able to sit in that silence to hear those intuitive messages. And the more you're doing that, the more you put that focus on your inner world, the deeper you go into your inner world, the more you make all these connections. And it's so amazing when you start having this, this connection to your higher self, and you just have this information coming through out of nowhere. So for example, I started connecting to my higher self, but I didn't realize what I was actually doing. But it's like, let's say you've got something on your mind and you're puzzled about it, and you're just like, you kind of got a negative perspective. And then out of nowhere, like literally out of nowhere, this positive perspective just comes in, and you've got this wisdom and clarity around this situation that you were puzzled about or that was bothering you. That's your higher self communicating. When that positive perspective just comes in out of nowhere, that's you connecting to your higher self and receiving that communication. So the more you meditate, the more you practice, the more you strengthen these connections. My fourth tip is to go out in nature. Now, this is a great way to connect with spirit, because nature is God. You're God in human form as well. So just by being in nature, you're connecting to God and spirit. And nature's very quiet and calm and peaceful. And you can just sit in nature and sit in that stillness and have that communication come through. So I recommend making the effort of getting out in nature as much as you can. I always have this really strong urge to be in nature and to be away from the city. The city life overstimulates us. It overstimulates our nervous system, which causes us to feel stressed. So make an effort to get out in nature as much as you can. It'll be really good for your overall health as well, but it's a great way to connect to God and Spirit. Number 5 is trial and error. So our intuition and gut instincts are always speaking to us. And the way that I became more in tune with my intuition was literally through trial and error, because it's learning to get familiar with your intuition when it's speaking to you and being able to differentiate that from your thoughts. So your thoughts are, your ego, and your ego is always going to be steering you wrong, whilst your intuition will steer you right. So there were times, this was even before I had a spiritual awakening, where my intuition would speak to me. It told me to do something, and I listened and I did it. And it really saved my ass, to be honest. Like, I could have ended up in a really bad situation if I didn't listen and do what my intuition said. And so just by listening and doing, I realized, I'm so glad I listened to that voice that told me to do that. And that's just how you start getting familiar with it. Now, this can go the other way as well. There was a time where my intuition told me to do something and I didn't do it. This was, I was out by a lake, relaxing out in the sun. I had a thought of I should put sunscreen on my feet. My feet are quite white. They don't see the sun very often. I thought I should probably sunscreen my feet. But I was already laying down and comfortable that I was just being a bit lazy about it. And I was like, oh no, it'll be all right. That voice that said put sunscreen on your feet was my intuition. And I didn't listen this time. And what ended up happening is I got a really badly sunburned feet. And I'm not talking about just normal sunburn either. This was really weird sunburn where it seems like my foot actually started getting cooked. Like it wasn't normal sunburn. It blew up. Like I had a really swollen foot and ankle. I couldn't walk on it. The color of it, like at first it looked like the color of sunburn. But as it started healing, the color went really funny and weird, almost like this pinky, purpley color, but the color just, looking at it, it just made me think, oh my God, it looks like my foot's being cooked. Like, this is weird. And then it didn't heal properly. Like, even to this day, like this has happened a couple of years ago, and even to this day, if my foot gets too hot, like if it's summertime and it's a hot day and then I'm taking a shower, or I've got shoes and socks on and it's really hot, my feet are getting really hot, I end up getting this tingly feeling on the top of my foot. And I'm like, and I know it's related to that sunburn that I had because it's happened ever since that day. And it just wasn't normal sunburn. I've never experienced sunburn like this. So again, it really made me feel like my foot had started cooking and it never really fully healed. But the point is that these are both examples of my intuition speaking to me. One time I listened, one time I didn't listen. Either way, it doesn't matter because it still helps you to get familiar with the voice of your intuition. And that's how you learn to get more in tune with it. Well, that's what worked for me anyways. It was just through trial and error. It'd speak to me, I listen. Oh, that was good that I listened to it. It'd speak to me, I didn't listen. Damn it, I should have listened to it. You know what I mean? And the more that happens, the more you start getting familiar, the more, like I'm at the point now where I just know when my intuition's speaking to me. I don't even need to question it, I just know. So this is something I've been working on for quite a while for myself. So you can work on it too. Just use those 5 tips and work on your communication, because at the end of the day, all the answers lie inside of you. You could go to people for advice. You could be like puzzled about a situation, go to people for advice. What should I do? But the thing is the answers actually lie within you. So you can actually ask your higher self or ask God or Spirit or Source, what should I do? And go within and tune within, and the answers will start coming up while you're in your inner world. It's amazing. It's a really amazing feeling because you feel that connection and then you realize there is a higher power out there. There is something above us that's communicating, and it's just awesome. So if you like this video, let me know by smashing that like button, and write a comment if you got some sort of value out of it. Let me know. I would love to know. If you like this sort of content, then subscribe and hit that bell notification. I'm going to leave a video here for you to watch. This is to teach you how to meditate in case if you don't know. Some people are new to this sort of thing, and there are so many different ways you can meditate. So check that video out so you can learn more about it. Have an awesome day. Peace.